Okay, we'll start with this per international boxing news. The EBU orders Shannon Ryan for European title. The EBU has ordered Shannon Ryan to fight Elisa Papa for the vacant EBU super flyweight title. Ryan is coming off a technical decision win over former EBU champion Chloe Watson. For those not familiar with the EBU title, it's sort of a starter belt for the fighters that fight out of that region of the world. It's not uncommon for a fighter to pick up the EBU title, the European title, along the way to fighting for the full title. Shannon sports a professional record of 10 wins with 1 loss and no draws, 1 recorded knockout, having never been knocked out in 11 professional bouts. The opponent she is designated to be facing, provided that she actually takes on this challenge for the vacant EBU title, is Elisa Papa, who sports a professional record of 6 wins with no losses and 1 draw, 1 recorded knockout, unbeaten, albeit unproven as well. Last in action in July of last year, opposite the ring, Sara Del Vecchio, who she decisioned over 6 rounds. One thing I noticed about Sara Del Vecchio, along with Elisa Papa's last 5 opponents, is that those girls never actually won a fight. 5 consecutive opponents in a row, all of which had losing records and never won a boxing match. I think it says something about Elisa Papa that these are the kind of girls she's been building her record with. Along the way, the only fighter that she fought that had a winning record, more victories than losses, was Bethy Franco, all the way back there in January of 2023, which isn't saying much. Shannon Ryan, who's still with Matchroom, is coming off of 3 consecutive wins after suffering her first professional defeat to Emma Doolin in June of 2024. She's rebounded since then, fought 3 times and won 3 times, most recently in October opposite the ring, Chloe Watson. Now, I don't want to read too much into this order because I don't know how much or how little Shannon Ryan cares about fighting for the EBU title at this stage in her career, where she already has 11 professional bouts. She might be more focused on fighting for a world title at this point. As stated, it's not uncommon for fighters in that region of the world to pick up the EBU title along the way, but I don't know that Shannon hasn't outgrown the desire to pick up that title. She might have. Simultaneously, she might take it as an opportunity to stay busy, because if nothing else, Elisa Papa could serve as a stay busy fight for Shannon. Shannon is coming off the biggest win of her career so far against the very talented Chloe Watson, still promoted by Matchroom, campaigning in one of the deeper, more densely populated, talent-rich weight classes in all of women's boxing, the super flyweight division. It's where Emma Doolin is set to challenge Irma Garcia for her IBF title. That's where Jasmine Artiga holds the WBA, Adelaida Ruiz holds the WBC, and Mizuki Hiruta, Women's Fighter of the Year last year, holds the WBO. It's where Shannon Ryan currently campaigns, and presumably if she decides to take on this fight adhering to this order, that's where it will go down. This division is a perfect example of what I'm always telling you about the lower weights in women's boxing. That's where all the real talent is, and super flyweight is finally starting to heat up, as a good number of major promotional outfits have prized stallions at this weight. It's not just Matchroom, it's also MVP. This division is finally starting to get some attraction. I don't know that it's a guarantee that Shannon will decide to fight Elisa Papa. She could, if for no other reason than to stay busy and pick up a trinket along the way. We'll see.
Once you become that superstar, bro, it's what you paying for a belt for, what you throwing your money down the drain for. It's like almost like buying a chain. Like what you doing that for? It looks good. So what? Like, you know what I mean? So I'm not trying to shit on, the WBA, WBC, IBF, or WBO. I'm not shitting on y'all at all, but to a certain extent, belts just don't matter to a certain extent.
You don't believe you should wear a chain? That was crazy. He said it's like wearing a chain.
It's understandable how Keyshawn Davis would arrive to such a conclusion in the modern day and age, when the fighters themselves and the fans are questioning the significance of world titles, quote-unquote world titles, in today's boxing landscape.
I understand how he got there.
For a fighter with some popularity and major financial backing, it's not actually necessary to go through those channels to land a major fight with a major name. Take Ryan Garcia, for example. He's about to fight for the WBC title this weekend, having not fought in any eliminators coming off a loss.
Because he's popular.
And because those putting the event together put up enough money that Mario Barrios is willing to defend his title against him, which begs the question, if you don't even have to go through the proper channels, because your popularity can get you there, if you're popular enough, do you even need a world title?
Why should you pay for it?
Is it even necessary? For some fighters it might be, and for others it might not, if you're popular enough. For the vast majority of fighters out there, and I mean the majority, they have to go through those channels as they don't have the marquee value, the leverage, to get those major names in the ring. The hope is that if you climb up those ranks and become a mandatory, that will be your leverage, in the absence of a lot of money or a lot of marquee value.
So I don't think the world titles are going anywhere for that reason, in spite of this recent trend of fighters that are dropping their belts for whatever reason. Those are just the ones that can afford to, which represents a minute number in the greater scheme of things, because the vast majority of fighters all around the world, they need that system, however flawed it might be. For some of them, it's their only shot at the big time. Now the question is, has Keyshawn Davis grown in popularity so much that he doesn't need an alphabet title?
He doesn't seem to put much emphasis on the trinket's intrinsic value, won't stand for ceremony, but is he popular enough right now that he can do that? And I would say no, because look at who you want to fight. You want to fight Devin Haney. He's WBO champion right now.
Maybe you don't care about his WBO title.
Maybe you don't want to pay the sanctioning fees for it right now that you're young. But if you went your whole career fighting these kinds of people and didn't get to call yourself a 2-weight world champion, a 3-weight world champion, 4, 5, like Floyd Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya, Terrence Crawford, Manny Pacquiao, these multi-weight world champions, if when you walk away from the sport because of this nuanced stance you have on world titles,
careful that you're not walking into something you'll regret later. That's the thing about young people. They're old enough to make adult decisions, but not adult enough to see the forest through the trees. Whether Keyshawn Davis likes it or not, to some degree, a world title fight is easier to promote.
Now, I'm not trying to justify all of the WBC's or the WBA's shenanigans in saying that, but it does help to sell a fight when there's the added angle that there is something on the line, that you're fighting for a little something more than just the prizes in what is prize fighting. Because if you took Keyshawn's perspective at face value, why do you want to fight Devin Haney? Why specifically?
It's just for the money?
And it probably is, but to the consumer, to the customer, that perspective is a little harder to sell. Underneath it all, we all know it.
For the money.
If fighting Devin Haney didn't pay out nothing, you'd have no interest in it, but because you see that's a money fight for you, you want to do it. You don't care about his belt.
Maybe you don't.
If nothing else, you can view the belts as sort of a garnish over a well-prepared meal. If for no other reason, they're there to enhance the visual appeal of what you're consuming. I don't know how much or how little Keyshawn Davis is going to stick to his word, stick to his guns, that he will not fight for alphabet titles moving forward. We'll see if he were to actually land that Devin Haney fight. You don't want his belt. You just want to fight him.
Well, all right.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, just announced, Manny Pacquiao will return to the ring against Ruslan Provodnikov in a 10-round welterweight exhibition match on Saturday, April the 18th, at the Thomas & Mack Center in Las Vegas, Nevada.
The ghosts of yesteryear. That's what Manny and Ruslan would represent in 2026.
But not only that, that's not the only recent revelation, the only recent news regarding the Pac-Man. I think about a week ago they said he's paired up with Team Combat League, that nuanced and novel promotion that tries to make boxing a combat sport by pairing a team of fighters together based on the city they're from, then having each fighter compete for 1 round apiece, with whatever team picks up the most rounds winning the contest.
Manny's paired up with them?
He has, and not only that, he plans on competing, so Manny Pacquiao is yet another fighter who never really retired upon announcing his retirement, because he's still in the business of selling you fights. And the only thing that changed is what kind of fights they are. Professional boxing matches, exhibitions, novelty fights.
What you often hear me say about Floyd Mayweather, that he never really retired, also applies to Manny. But how could two guys who made so much money in the sport of boxing still have to fight.
And rest assured that if these guys are still out here, it's because they have to be. They're not doing it for fun. They're not doing it for no reason. They have to keep fighting to earn a living, but given their age, that they're not in their prime anymore, what kind of fighting they do is all that changes. Manny has never been good with money.
Ever.
So that he could have blown through all of his is even less surprising than Floyd Mayweather's current predicament, his situation. It's very similar to Manny's in the sense that both Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao have been fighting in a number of exhibitions and novelty fights. Manny just came off of fighting in a real fight against Mario Barrios for a world title, and he drew. The angle they tried to sell you was that Manny's back because he wants to be the oldest world champion or the oldest welterweight world champion, something along those lines, but I didn't buy into it. If you're back, it's because you need money. You'll notice that after the judges' scorecards were read, and it was labeled a draw, Manny made no effort to run it back with Mario. He instead tried to fight Rolly.
That didn't happen. Rolly's got a mandatory in Shakram Giyasov, and he's rumored to be facing Conor Benn next.
Not fighting Pacquiao, there was also a separate rumor that Manny and Floyd would be getting together to maybe do a rematch between them.
But that didn't happen either. Not if you're fighting Ruslan in April and then competing in Team Combat League. It would seem that Manny is scrounging through boxing's proverbial couch cushions for whatever change, whatever money he can find, wherever he can find it.
Why is it that so many boxers, so many athletes are so bad with money? Why do they all just blow through it to end up having to do stuff like this? It's because, a lot of boxers, a lot of athletes, they come from poverty. And almost overnight, they start making vast sums of cash, most of which they don't know what to do with. So they just blow through it, buying trinkets and toys and cars.
Fucking it off.
If not some smarmy accountant or attorney finds a way to steal a good chunk of that money from them, like Al Heyman is said to have stolen Floyd's money from him.
Fucking it off.
So it's not a mystery why Manny Pacquiao is back at close to 50 years old. Don't believe the hype. It's because he needs money. He blew through all of his, and now he's sort of forced to keep fighting whatever way he can, wherever he can. Speaking of fights, Callum Smith versus David Morrell has been confirmed for April 18th.
The same day as Manny Pacquiao's exhibition with Ruslan Provodnikov, so I guess that's going to be a busy day in the world of boxing.
Matchroom announced earlier today that Smith and Morrell will do battle for the Englishman's WBO interim light heavyweight title on April 18th. Liverpool's M&S Bank Arena will play host, and the event will stream live on DAZN. The pair had been in talks since last summer when the fight was ordered by the WBO, but negotiations were constantly hit by delays and a purse bid cancellation. Smith hasn't seen action since his Fight of the Year contender with Joshua Buatsi. Nearly a year ago in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, the former ring super middleweight title holder beat Buatsi by UD. Morrell last fought in July on the undercard of the Ring 3 and overcame a knockdown to outpoint Imam Katayev via split decision. Smith is the ring's number 3 ranked light heavyweight, while Morrell sits 6th on the list. So both boys have been out a while. Callum since the beginning of last year, and David since the summer.
This is a good fight.
I believe Matchroom is continuing to provide value for money to existing DAZN subscribers that are maybe not interested in paying extra for the ultimate tier when you consider their content offering. 2 weeks from now, we're going to see champions Sugar Nunez versus Emmanuel Navarrete square off for their 2 alphabet titles. This card with Callum Smith versus David Morrell, that is a solid fight between top 10 contenders at 175, and Pat Brown versus Vasil Ducar. Pat Brown, one of their prized stallions in the cruiserweight division.
Would seem that even though they cut champion Jai Opataya loose, Matchroom still has a stake in the cruiserweight division. We'll see what happens. Back over to Callum Smith and David Morrell.
For what is Callum Smith's WBO interim title that can serve as a segue to get unified champion Dimitri Bivol in the ring, accenting what I just said in our segment about Keyshawn Davis. He may not be interested in alphabet titles and their intrinsic value, but they do actually serve a function that is necessary in the sport. giving fighters that perhaps don't have that much leverage the opportunity to corner a fight with the big name on the premise that the big names usually have alphabet titles.
Usually.
Now, following Callum's fight with Joshua Buatsi, when this fight became a talking point with David Morrell, at least last year, I heavily favored Callum to win. Because of his run of form, how he looked in the Buatsi fight, and how David had looked in the Imam Katayev fight, it seemed to me logical that Callum would get him. He's got a lot more time in at this weight than David Morrell does.
And if David could get dropped and go through hell and back with an Imam Katayev, it seemed conceivable to me that a more experienced fighter in Callum Smith might get him. Though now I'm not so sure because a lot of time has passed. By the time these two guys get in the ring, Callum will not have fought in over a year.
A lot of time has passed and some things have changed. David Morrell is no longer trained by Ronnie Shields, who I've never had a high opinion of as a trainer. He's now being trained by Ismael Salas, El Profesor, who I do have a high opinion of and who I think is a better fit for a Cuban fighter than Ronnie. Ishmael's gonna have David out there boxing. For a perspective and a testament to Ishmael's influence, think about how Rolly looked against Ryan Garcia in a fight everybody favored Rolly to lose.
Ishmael turned him into a boxer.
So it's safe to say he's gonna try to mold David into more of a boxer. It's going down in Liverpool at the M&S Bank Arena, so Callum will have home field advantage, but then again, so did Nick Ball, and look what happened to him in Liverpool. Will Callum Smith be the latest Liverpudlian to shit the proverbial bed?
He might.
He's lost a lot of time on this thing, but it's mostly because he wasn't at liberty to walk away. Walking away would have costed him his WBO interim title. Obviously, he didn't want to lose that. That's his biggest bargaining chip, to get a Dmitry Bivol fight. Without that, you fall to the bottom of the queue. Maybe Dmitry would be willing to fight you, but because he has other mandatories to satisfy, he would have to take care of them first. So Callum has every intention of holding his position and keeping his interim title so he can use that to become a two-weight world champion.
I noticed that it's a lot of the foreign fighters, the non-Americans, that have a traditional purview about their role in boxing. They still place value on the prestige and the specter of becoming a world champion. They understand that it's prize fighting just like everybody else. But I don't see them being as jaded as the American fighters are, the young ones that are basically saying, we don't need your belt.
It could be because America's produced world champions for years, so to some degree, the American boxing scene is spoiled, whereas from smaller places that produce less world champions, it still means a lot to them to compete at that level. So they maintain a traditional purview. Smith versus Morrell is a solid fight, and thank God that it's not a pay-per-view.